On today's starting nine, Jake and Carl get into some of the college baseball action that's coming up this weekend with special guest Stephen Schoch, college baseball insider Stephen Schoch, we should say. There's also some power rankings, some major headlines, including a former manager of ours that just got fired. And we're going to do a little heat check for the first time ever and maybe talk college bats because we need to talk about the metal bats. Let's get into it. Let's have some fun. It's starting nine. Action! And welcome back to Starting Nine. It's your host, Carl, here in Chicago. We've got Colin Cooper out in New York on the ones and twos, and my guy Jake Sleeveless.
Back to the sleeveless. I mean, it's 104. It's going to kind of be this way for the next week or so. And I took the dog on a run before I sat down to do the show, and I was still very sweaty beforehand, so I wasn't going to put a real shirt on.
Mm-hmm. What's your pace when you do a run 104 in Texas? Are you like, if you were on a treadmill, what are you, 7.5, 8.5?
Yeah, around there. I've never claimed to be a really good runner. I'm good at running long distance, but my pace isn't great. I think it's more about just keeping your feet moving. I wouldn't set any records. I'm not a phenomenal speed runner by any means. Short distances, I'm great. If I'm running a mile, I can run a mile around low sixes, but then every mile after that is progressively getting much slower. So I like to run 3 or 4, I'd say 2.5 to 3 miles routinely, sometimes up to 5 with the dog, but not going for time, just trying to get a nice sweat in.
So running is one of those things like reading a book. I see someone reading a book. I'm like, man, I should read more books. And I'm like, I'm going to read more books. And I never read a book. Or if I read one book, I'm like, I read books now. I should join a book club. Running's very similar. I see someone running. I'm like, man, that'd be a nice hobby. Look, that guy's in shape. They seem at peace. And then you go for one run. You're like, this is why I don't fuck it. It's like you get to halfway through the book. You're like, this is why I don't read books, man. Now you're just thinking about the book. You know, the book ends up in the book bag. You're going to the airport. I'll read the book. You're never going to read the book, dude. Put the book back on the shelf. That's
We
how I
talked
feel
about
running.
this, I guess, last episode, like doing things that are hard, things you don't want to do, finding a way to force yourself to do them. And that's how I am with running. Again, like I don't love to run. I do it because in my mind, it's the best way to gauge where your cardiovascular capacity is at. Like if you think you're in shape, or if you're not sure, you want to find out, just go run a quarter mile, go run a half mile, whatever seems difficult for you, just go do that. Not at a crazy pace, just run, and you'll find out real quick where you stack up as far as your cardio. So the first couple weeks of running for me, like I wouldn't say first couple weeks, maybe first 4 runs is kind of a pain in the ass, but I always feel way better after. And then now it's just kind of part of the routine, and my dog needs it, so I do it more or less for her. And it's good to stay in shape too. I like it because my workouts are typically pretty hard, and I don't like to do cardio while I'm working out. So I like to mix in a nice run.
Well, when you're working out, you want to keep the heart rate elevated. You want to keep moving. You get your cardio through the repetitions. If I've learned correctly.
No, you're right. Well, it depends on what your goals are. Like I'm not trying to be a bodybuilder or a world's strongest man by any means. So I incorporate cardio into my lifting by just minimizing the rest in between sets, doing sets that are like higher numbered sets, anywhere from like 15 to 30, which you kind of experienced with me when you were here in Austin. And it burns, man. When you do sets of 30, not only does it, it's fatiguing the muscle, but it gets your heart rate up.
Yep. We like that. We like a lot about that. Get the heart rate up. I got to work out more. I played golf yesterday with Daniel Hudson, former teammate of yours. That guy hits the ball a mile. I mean, I'm out there. I'm like, dude, I can't believe how far you hit this ball. If you ever get out of the bullpen with the Dodgers, man, just do some long drive contests. You guys play golf together. Does he hit farther than you? Who's got a bigger tee shot?
I mean, I think we're about the same. Yeah, I mean, we're anywhere from like 305 to 330, I would say. And then there's the fucking snap hooks that go 240. Let's not forget about that. Though those are in the bag. But no, he's a good ball striker. And most pitchers hit the ball far. I mean, the guy, one of the pitchers I played with, that was surprisingly short off the tee. No offense to him, because he used to throw. Well, he still throws a billion. He's one of the best closers of all time, and Craig Kimbrell. Not what you would expect from a tee shot, but I can't say shit because he took some money from me a few times on the golf course. He can play. He's just, you would expect him to hit it 360.
I think he's got sauce. I think you throw that guy 100 in, he's going to spin it, he's going to flip it. He's probably got some nasty sauce on him.
No, he does. He does. He does. No, but Hudson, good player. We went out to Torrey Pines when I was with them in San Diego. We played a bunch of good golf courses there. Del Mar's really nice. The guys wanted to go play Torrey. I typically don't like to play Torrey unless you can get one of the first tee times off, because it's so fucking slow. You're playing a 4.5 hour round, and it just kind of takes away from your ability to enjoy the round. I don't mind sitting out there for a while, but when you're going like 3, 4, 5 minutes in between shots, it gets a little ridiculous. And so I get out there, let's say 7:15. Huddy's already on the driving range, and I go up there, and so the walk to the range is probably 150, 200 yards. And as I'm on my way, I just see Huddy like shanking balls right, just nonstop, shank right, shank right, shank right. So I get over there, and I saw him hit a few. I'm like, hey man, like, how's it going? What's up? You ready to play? And he goes, man, I might leave. Like, I haven't hit a ball straight yet. I go, dude, you ain't going anywhere. Like, we're about to tee it up. We're about to have a good day. Like, it's gonna be awesome. Like, let's do this. So we start the round. He's playing okay. I mean, I think he doubled the first hole. He had a par in there. But then we get on the third or fourth tee box. And you know how you'll take your driver and just kind of rest your weight on it sometimes when you're just fucking around the tee box? So he does that, and his shaft snaps in half. So not only was he couldn't hit a ball straight on the range. We get out there, and he shatters his driver. So didn't start out so well for him, but we had a blast. I mean, the guy lost his driver. I let him use mine. Everything worked out fine.
Oh man, it's good teammates right there. Guys just new teammates right away. Use the equipment because that's a personal thing. You come in, hey, can I check
Take
out
it.
this
Yeah,
hybrid
it's
in the
your,
bag? It's
what's
tough.
mine is yours. Yeah, I don't care what's in the bag. If you want to hit it, go for it.
I think he shot. I think he went pretty low, and then it was cool because normally in the times I played golf before, like MLB guys, it's usually off days. This was unique because it was like we're on the 18th hole. It was like, hey, we gotta get in the car, go back. I gotta get on the bus and go over to
Yeah.
the White Sox game, and it was cool to hear about
Yeah.
how his kind of experience. He was like, yeah, this is definitely not something I would have done early in my career. I'm in the back end of my career. I'm comfortable getting on the 3:30 bus. When I was a younger guy, I'd have to go and I'd want to be the first guy there and all this stuff. So it was kind of just cool to hear the culture and spend a time with a guy who, he is having a lot of successes here. He has had success as a reliever. He's been in the big leagues for a long time, and he's got a cool career. And it's just the way he carries himself is very professional and an enjoyable route, man. Honestly, like I felt. It's not like we're sitting there like getting loaded or anything like that. It's just cool to have a casual conversation. Then it's like I'm like, wait, do you even know he's like good on the White Sox, like going to the game tonight? He's like, yeah, I know what's going on. I have an idea of like, I know who the players are. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
he didn't get in last night though. He didn't. So we got our eye on Daniel Hudson this week in Chicago. Super nice guy. Glad to spend some time with him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice to be able to get out and play before games. And let's be honest, like, it gets your body loose. Like, it's not overly strenuous by any means. And especially in his position, or like Kimbrel, they can play golf. They can like go back to the hotel, shower up, whatever, get there late, go through their routine and relax. And fuck, you got to throw 20 pitches. If you can't do that, like, you need to get yourself in a little bit better shape to where you can play golf and still go get 3 outs. And you mentioned about how he wouldn't have done that early in his career. And I think that sucks, because that old mentality is so fucking stupid. Because look, if guys are getting to the field and doing the routine and everything they need to do to get prepared to help the team win, who gives a fuck if they're there at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock? I've never gave a shit about when guys get to the field, as long as you're getting there with enough time to take care of what you need to take care of, get the body loose before you go out and team stretch with the bullpen or the starters or the position players. Doesn't matter. I mean, don't you agree that that's just like that's such a dumb thing that older players like made younger players do just because seniority, or you just wanted the younger guys there before you for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think there's this old culture that is going away quickly. I think it's ushered in by the fact of analytics and like there's more of this like, well, why are you valuable? It's like, well, I've been around 15 years and you better shut up. Like, oh, that stuff's gone, dude. Like, you really got to be somebody special. I mean, not to belabor the point, but fucking 20, 30 years ago, if that Cubs run happens, like there's no way Riz is playing for the Yankees. There's just no way. But like just the culture around baseball has changed where people are willing to let senior statesmen leave, and now it's kind of impacted where I think you just don't have guys like before. Like I'm saying, like you could be a guy who's been in the big leagues forever, and just based on that, you're gonna have authority any clubhouse you walk in. Like,
Well, there's only one reason that teams would ever let a guy like that go. And I think it's pretty obvious. They believe that their best years are behind them. And they don't want to put themselves in a position where they have to second guess that contract. Teams don't want to hear the backlash from a fan base or from baseball or whoever. Like, can't believe you signed this guy. Like, look how shitty he's playing. So I unless there's some other mystery reason, but I mean, you don't think Riz is still going to be good for another 4 or 5 years?
I mean, I certainly think I think he is. I think he's the type of guy, but he's got to be in a good environment where he wants to, I don't think you can put Anthony Rizzo at first base, throw a bunch of Joes around him, and pretend it's the same fucking thing it was that it was
No,
when it was at
no,
its
no,
best. And that's
absolutely
where
not.
I think that's
Yeah.
where I think people lose it. It's like, well, why not just rebuild around him? It's like, dude, the glory days are gone. You're not going to recapture that same level of intensity and stuff. So do I think he'd be this good on the Cubs though as he is on the Yankees? Absolutely not.
Well,
I don't.
he doesn't have the same guys around him either. Like when you insert a guy like Rizzo in a lineup that's already that potent, it just elevates your game. That's like we were talking about Nick Markakis a couple weeks ago. If you were to take him out of the Orioles lineup and put him in Boston or in New York during that prime run of his career, I mean, the guy, he's a no doubt Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? So maybe the Cubs are trying to preserve some of that money for some of these other guys they might want to give it to. And there are some guys in there.
I think so, and I think it's a matter of like you say you want to bring these guys up, and people say like, all right, well, we have to bring these people up. Well, they need places to play, and like if you have players anchored into these positions for years and stuff, it makes it more challenging. Like the people keep saying extend. Like there's one clear cut example about the Cubs, and we're burying a lead. We are definitely gonna talk about Joe Maddon. That's at the forefront of my mind. But before we do, this is at the top of my mind now. We're talking about Christopher Morel, the player for the Cubs. I brought him up last episode, dude. If they go out and they sign Carlos Correa for 7 years, or if they extend Javi Baez, like it's not just that you have these players there. Then you're any other player that's going to come up or you're trying to develop, then like you just basically cut off one position for a number of years where they're at a position where they're trying to find young players. So I think there's this, you have to spend a year or two where you're bringing up as many guys as you can. And it just takes time. Like it takes a couple of seasons to rebuild. So I just,
It takes a while,
Morel's a
yeah.
good,
I mean, look
yeah,
at some of these other teams like that have been in a building phase for a decade. And then like certain guys pan out, the other guys don't. A couple guys get hurt. It's just people underperform. It's just you can have a plan until something starts to go sideways, and then you gotta readjust or continue to try and draft as well as you can.
I mean, honestly, the Marlins have been trying to build it since they brought in Ozzie and they traded for Burley and hurt and they signed Burley and they signed whatchamacallit, Jose Reyes, and they did all that crazy shit. We'll get to, so let's just talk about Joe Madden for a second because we're going back to Rizzo and the Cubs, and Joe left, went over to the Angels. We brought up last week on the show, and there's three kind of big headlines. I suppose two I'd like to spend some time on here, and that's Joe Madden getting fired. And we brought up last week, like, is he on the hot seat? Is he not on the hot seat? And I was bringing it up just because I thought it was something we'd be following later in the season. Like, I know you drop a couple early, like not a couple. I mean, franchise record 13 in a row now, but just based on when you hired Joe, it's not you're just bringing in a manager. You are like really adopting a different kind of culture and shift. He's intense. He has his hands over everything. Like a Joe Club is way different than not a Joe Club. And I'm surprised Art Moreno, who's a very active owner, was ready to part ways because Joe has already told the media he didn't see any dissension coming, finger pointing, blaming nothing. He thought they were on a steady track. Joe was doing Joe's stuff. When you have that lineup and you're going to the front office, you're saying, "Listen, guys, the last thing we need is more bats." And okay, here you go. Here's Noah Syndergaard and here's Michael Lorenzen, both talented, like fine, talented enough guys, but they're not looking for fucking number fours that can slide in and be, you need guys that can go out and pitch and compete, like actually compete, not nice stories when it's fucking July. Like, oh man, how about Noah Syndergaard's comeback? He's really pitched well because his ERA is under 4 and he's got a 500 record and he's scattering some fucking quality starts here and there. No, dude, you need somebody who can pitch behind Otani and give you some thump. And like you have 22-year-old and Reed Detmers, you got a 25-year-old in Sandoval who's going to be good, who is pretty good. But big thing with losing streaks is starting pitching. If you have good starting pitching, you can't lose fucking 13 in a row. If you just can't, because you're gonna run into you're gonna run into somebody who's just quality. And if you beat them and you have another guy who's quality behind, you start stacking these up. Losing 13 in a row in the big leagues when you have that lineup, it's almost, if you really do want to get mad about it, I'd fire Joe Mann right there on the spot. Just thinking about it gets me mad. How the fuck's a Mike Trout lineup losing? Mike Trout's one of the greatest athletes of in the history of professional sports. How the fuck is he on a team that's losing 13 in a row? And maybe this is unfortunate or not. I think it's fair to point out Joe does have some free time now coming up. He's got some money in the bank. Maybe he's a perfect candidate for the Game Time app. And Game Time's a big partner starting 9. We like Game Time a lot. It's a new ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. They cracked the code on how to score deals on last-minute tickets. It's possible with the Game Time app. The biggest last-minute price drops can be found on the seats you thought you could never buy. Guys, this is big time stuff. Obviously, the Cubs are out of town this week. They're going to be back next week. And whatever your team is, really. I mean, you guys, they come back from a road trip. You got to go show some support to the boys. The best way to do that's a Game Time ticket app. The purchase process takes just 2 taps in 10 seconds. Skip all the hassle. Enjoy the moment. They're delivered directly to your phone. No printer need, none of that stuff. So to get a piece of the action, to save some money on tickets, download the Game Time app. Go to the account tab to create a login and redeem code starting9 for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Promo code starting9 for $20 off your first purchase. And I say that with no disrespect to Joe Maddon. And as we brought up, I mean, obviously it's a little disappointing for him. I say little, very disappointing. And the Angels, they got a place to go. And I say this on behalf of baseball fans everywhere. Mike Trout needs to be in October. And Shohei Ohtani needs to have a career that exists outside of 162. And that's just a fact. Like that, the game needs Mike Trout playing on a big fucking stage. Period.
Yeah, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time. They were doing so well in the division. I think at one point they had at least a game or two lead. We've talked about it many times that the division has to go through Houston. I mean, that's been the juggernaut, for quite a while. So to have this happen in this fashion to Anaheim, it stings to the fan base, to the organization. Something had to change. But again, I've always been in the camp that it's not the fucking manager most of the time. It's the guys on the field, period. So, maybe they need to have a team meeting and kind of try and figure some things out. But bottom line, those guys just aren't playing well enough.
Yeah, we had a saying in college, fuck that team meeting bullshit. Because it'd be like, let's get together and have a meeting, and you feel good in that meeting, the meeting's over, and then it's like, we have to go to practice tomorrow. And you get out there and you're still playing sloppy and you're slow and you're lazy. And it's a tough game, man. I mean, the difference between running a baseball team and running a basketball team or a football team is just astronomically different because you're not drawing up X's and O's. Your decisions are so nuanced and minuscule, and it's very much just about whether or not you're getting what you want from your team. It's so hard. It's so hard to figure it out, and that's why the good ones stand out. Like, there's a reason Tito is a fucking legend in the game. It's because he's a world-class manager that has consistently gotten more out of players that haven't under other managers. And you could go back to Earl Weaver's another great example of a guy who's like, listen, there's no doubt Earl Weaver's a great manager, and there's no doubt Joe Maddon is a great manager. But at the end of the day, to your point, the players have to play. And if you're going to give them fucking Noah Syndergaard and you're going to give them Michael Lorenzen to offset that lineup in that division, then you can't get mad at the guy if the pitching staff fucking blows.
Yeah, well, it's a tough one. I kind of like team meetings, especially if certain things need to be addressed amongst the team. Certain things can linger for a long period of time without, being brought out amongst the group. And sometimes, you kind of need to air things out. I've been on a lot of teams that have had to do that. You have to address some things that are uncomfortable. But if everybody's going about their business and their routines and working hard and things just aren't going well, then sometimes you still have to say some shit. You just have to perform better in certain situations, and I'm sure the Angels can openly attest to that. Throughout these 13 games, I guarantee you there have been many times where guys didn't execute, guys didn't put good enough at bats together. The bullpen just didn't do their job. I mean, all up and down, that roster. I'm sure that those guys can say that we could have done a better job in a lot of these situations.
Yeah. And now the Angels have to move on from it. And Joe was a big hire for him. And that was kind of this is going to be the next step to take us there. And now they're back to square one while the Astros just continue to pump it out. And, we're going to get to the Rangers in a second here, but it's again, it goes back to Mike Trout has to play in October. And the biggest name in our generation is little kids coming up in October was Derek Jeter. And all the stuff that made Derek Jeter that legend and bigger than the game itself. I'm like, dude, you got to watch this guy in October. He just delivers. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is. The flip play, the fucking walk-off homers. Like, even in the World Series, they lost to the Diamondbacks. Derek Jeter was just a man. It was like a god out there. And so it just sucks because Mike Trout has the opportunity to transcend this game other than just guys like us, guys like me, I should say, sitting around 40 fucking years from now being like, dude, you wouldn't believe how good this guy was. But at the end, this is a game where if you don't have like October, even experience, it separates. Like Clayton Kershaw was a guy where they were like, well, he never wins in October. Clayton Kershaw is objectively one of the best baseball players of all time. And they're like, well, he doesn't win in October. It's like, fuck this. It's just the way the game is, though.
Well, he ended up kind of putting that to rest, fortunately,
Fuck yeah.
because if any of that was associated with his name, say he hadn't, pitched well in October at all or won a World Series, then that's all people that weren't Dodgers fans would talk about. I could see Stephen A. Smith now just fucking harping on Kershaw for never winning a ring or just couldn't get it done in October. And baseball is one of those games where, like, he could go out there and dominate or throw a no hitter in the postseason and still not win a ring. It's not like basketball. You give the best players the ball and they can potentially win your team the game. I know it changes a little bit as you get into the playoffs and into the finals. But again, typically in basketball and in football, the best players can carry you to wins.
Yeah, so as we talk about team meetings too and like carrying yourself to wins, I'm just going to put a pin in this one. The Marlins had a big team meeting, 90-minute one. So we said last episode, like, oh, you think Joe Maddon's on the hot seat? I don't even want to float this out with Mattingly because I'm at a rate. This guy's going to get pegged before he even fucking finish the show here. But the Marlins are a team we want to see him play better. They should play better. Their run differential's positive and they're 8 games under 500 or something preposterous like that. And I don't want to hear about the schedule.
They got so many good players. They do. And you look at the lineup, you look at the rotation and some of the guys that they've had in the bullpen over the past several years. I mean, and not to mention the team that they had when they had Yelich and they had Stanton and they had Ozuna. Like, they could have ran into a World Series if they would have just signed a couple starting pitchers. And I know the reason they didn't do that is because they had all these guys with potential that were coming up so quickly. But then what are they doing now? I mean, Alcantara is pitching really well, and you have some bright spots in there. But then you look up and it's like, oh, another fourth place finish in the division or another fifth place finish in the division. Like, I don't know, something needs to change, and I don't necessarily know why the fuck you would need to have a 90-minute team meeting. Maybe they need to, like I said, maybe they need to hash a lot of shit out and get things out in the open. But something's got to change because every division is tough. There's teams in every division you have to compete with for the division or a chance to, you know, play in the postseason. And, you know, the Marlins are not in good shape. I mean, they obviously can't compete with the Mets. They can barely compete with the Braves and the Phillies. So uh, something has to be done. It just does.
Yeah, I think they actually they went out they won by 10 runs last night because they had the meeting and they went out and they just absolutely fucking smashed the
Well,
the
have another
Nationals.
meeting then. Fuck, have another 90 minute. Go to lunch. Have a long lunch. Figure it out. It's funny how that works, right? You have this long team meeting and you end up winning by 10. Like, did it correlate or did the guys just, you know what I'm saying? Like, does it help you hit that down and away heater, or that slider off the plate a little bit better because we had a 90-minute meeting? Probably not. Maybe the players needed to look in the mirror, have a team meeting a long time ago, and say, "Hey, boys, we're fucking better than we're playing. Like, we've got to tighten some shit up." And the bullpen struggles for the Phillies were what they were for a long time. That obviously has to get a lot better because there's nothing more demoralizing in baseball than when you have a lead in the seventh and eighth inning and you continue to lose those games. I mean, it just absolutely crushes you.
Yeah, well, I think there is also a sense of, especially with baseball players, because it's such an individual thing. Like, am I doing my job? Am I not doing my job? Am I doing my job? Am I not doing my job? They come in, they fire the manager when you guys are underperforming. You're like, well, that guy wasn't just doing his job. We were, like, we're fine. Like, we're gonna keep this going. In the meeting stuff too. It's like placebo. Like, if you think it makes you better and your head is elsewhere, this isn't a game you want to be playing with baggage. So if you're walking
No.
around, you're like, oh, I got a problem with this guy and that guy, and you come together as a team, it's like kumbaya. I do think
Yeah.
maybe there is. My point about like anti-team meeting stuff with baseball is like, you go out and you lose, you lose by 10 or something. There is no use in having the manager come in and be like, hey, I've seen enough of this bullshit. We got to do this and that. You got to catch. It's like, dude, we get it. Like, we know we fucking, like, nobody knows they fucked up more than the guy making the error.
There's a time and a place for a team meeting, and if it's done appropriately, it can have a positive effect on the guys in the clubhouse. But I've been a part of teams where there were meetings on a routine basis, and it's like, uncle, okay, like, we fucking get it, like you said, we understand. But if the manager or if certain players have enough feel to know when the right time and place is to do that, then it can lead to positive change. But I don't think that just because you have a team meeting, it's going to correlate into a win by 10, like happened um, in that situation. But you fucking never know. It's just, you have to show up planning to prepare yourself to help your team win the ball game, even if it's, you know, coming in and throwing an inning or getting a pinch at a bat or talking to one of the guys on the bench to help him prepare for the guy that's coming in. Whatever the case is, you have to bring something to the table. And if everyone can say that they're doing that, then if you lose, you probably got beat by the other team, because sometimes that does happen. Just typically, it doesn't happen 13 times in a row.
Yep. Well said. And this is team meeting season for MLB. I think you're going to see more now as you start getting into June and stuff. It's like, hey, this is it. You got to fucking get it going, guys. You really do.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
this is you're right about that. This is the time for team meetings, and you're kind of on the verge of teams having to make a decision. Are we selling off players, or are we gonna try and get in gear and figure something out and attempt to make the postseason? Because this is about that time.
so with that being said, I think we have some consolidated power rankings I want to run through quickly, just because I think this is just one list we put together, just because it's appropriate that we stay on top of this stuff. Um, and I think we'll work backwards from five. I've got the Padres. I know they're in a dogfight with the Dodgers, but I got the Padres 5. Then I have the Dodgers 4. I've got the Astros 3. The Astros are just, oh man. Justin Verlander has one bad start. He comes out 2 amazing starts. So Jordan Alvarez we gave due to the week 2 for obvious reasons. The Astros are unbelievable. 2, I've got the Mets, Colin. I'm sure you like that. And the Yankees are first, 40 and 15. We talk about them a lot. The Yankees are a wagon. Yeah.
First team to 40 wins. It's hard to not have them in the one spot. And look what Matt Carpenter's done since he's come over, to the pinstripes. Pretty amazing. Happy for him. And he looks pretty damn good in a mustache, doesn't he? I know you can appreciate that.
Now, what's up with that? I do appreciate that. What's up
Yeah.
with that? Do you think
Well,
does
he's a
he
he's
like the
he's a facial
mustache?
hair guy. He's a facial hair guy. He likes to have facial
Yeah.
hair. And the only thing you can rock over there is the stash. And he's got a nice thick one. And he looks, you know what? He'd probably be on the all uniform team, especially day games. He's got the shades rocking, no BGs. Like he looks like a baseball player, doesn't he?
Dude, Matt Carpenter came up as a backup first baseman at Albert Pujols, which is just one of the funniest things to me that he like was breaking in, playing the corner, or not behind Pujols. It was after Pujols. I think he had gone to the Angels already, and they were trying to find out the first base option. And Carpenter, like I remember when he came up, he was just instantly awesome, just
Yeah, he
instantly. And then
was
they're like,
right
we have to
away.
find a place for this guy every
Yeah,
day.
yeah. He bounced around from third. He played some second, played a little first base. I mean, he's a good utility guy, but then you know he ended up having such a good bat that they had to have him in the lineup every day.
So Matt Carpenter is one of those players you play against him, he just wreaks havoc on your soul. And I'll be honest, Matt Carpenter is the type of player that sent me to BetterHelp, which is a great sponsorship we have with BetterHelp because life can be overwhelming whether you're watching Matt Carpenter rip apart your Cubs and, or whether you're trying to get through the day. It's just hard, man. It's hard. Life's a grind. And many people are burned out without even knowing it. Symptoms can include lack of motivation, irritability, fatigue, and more. Like I said, there's just so much stuff in life, failure, disappointment, expectations, and are you working too hard, you're not working hard enough, are you making the most out of your education, all this stuff, student, it just gets on you, and we associate burnouts with work, but that's not the only cause. Any of our roles in life can lead us to feel burned out, and BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to prioritize yourself. Talking with someone can help you figure out what's causing stress in your life. Honestly, guys, it comes from, like you don't know until you start talking about it. So get it out there. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. So you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. I know that's important to a lot of people. Privacy, etc. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. And for our listeners, you guys get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/starting. That's better, HELP.com/starting for 10. How did I screw that one up? You get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/starting. Matt Carpenter. Okay, there's a couple. This is a new segment I'm ponying out there because I just want to talk about a couple players and kind of what they've been up to. But we're not giving out awards necessarily. It's just kind of a heat check thing. We talked about the Yankees. Aaron Judge with 22 homers. This guy is unbelievable, and he plays great defense too. He is like a
Mm-hmm.
complete player. He's not just a
He
donkey out
is.
there hitting bombs.
He is. I mean, do you think the Yankees are going to lock him up or attempt to? I mean, you're going to have to give him. Well, you're going to have to give him 350 million plus. Oh, he would. He
Really?
would. He would. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine
Would
if he goes to the Mets?
would he stay? Would he be the type of guy who'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to stay in New York and find a little motivation if he doesn't get the deal from the Mets"? You think, or if he doesn't get the deal from the Yankees? Or are you
Well, I
just
mean,
teasing
he's
yourself?
he's he's obviously comfortable there, so not having to leave the city that you played in for a long time. Why not? Why not just change uniforms?
Man, he's hitting 315 too. I mean, it's not like you just sacrifice everything to get the power numbers up there. I mean, he really is a threat. He hits it to all over the field. The reason I like him more than Stanton, obviously, is the defense and the versatility. But I mean, some of these games, he played 148 games last year, but he's been banged up the 3 seasons before that. Colin, is he as fragile as people say in New York? You got your ear close to the local stuff. Like, is he a fragile guy, generally speaking, or has he just had some bad luck?
I don't know if he's fragile. I mean, he's just a big dude out there, and I don't know. I don't hate Aaron Judge. I respect his game, and I like the way he plays. That's why I love him to come over. Not only to piss off Yankee fans if he came to the Mets, but he's a good player. I mean, he plays in a sandbox, so it definitely helps his numbers a little bit. But I like Aaron Judge.
Yeah, but let's be honest, man. Has he hit a homer that might have not gone out somewhere else? Maybe, but majority of the homers he's hitting are going 50 feet over the wall. So sandbox or not, I
No,
mean,
100%.
you know what I'm saying? Like he's hitting them
Yeah, his
450
splits
feet.
this year are identical.
Yeah,
It's a great point. His
yeah,
splits are identical. It's a great point.
and with Stanton, I think that Judge is a more polished hitter, but Jesus, man, having both of those guys in your lineup, eh, tough to navigate. Tough to navigate. And then you got Rizzo, you got Gallo. I mean, the swing and miss is obviously off the charts, but um, if you get him swinging the bat just a little bit better, I mean, how much better can the Yankees get?
Looking at their lineup, honestly, there's like the only room you have is like, yeah, if Joey Gallo plays where he's been like even below average relative to his career, Aaron Hicks hasn't been too great, and shortstop's been a problem for the Yankees for a long time. I mean, honestly, since they just like I they can't figure it out. They can't figure it out ever since the curse of not letting A-Rod play short. That's another thing to talk about down the road. But I do want to go Aaron Judge pin 60 home runs. And who knows if he gets hot, like you said, playing in a bandbox, like he goes through a 2-week stretch where it's like, dude, you just hit 12 jacks. Like you're up to 35 now. I mean, we really could be like in home run watch come September.
It could happen. It could definitely happen.
So another watch, Joey Votto, since coming back. Joey Votto had like the worst stretch of his career. Joey Votto, so consistent, all that stuff. He goes on the IL. He comes back since May 20th. Joey Votto has been on fire, and the Reds continue to be an undervalued team as they hang on to the stigma from April of being 3 and whatever it was, 16. They're actually not. They're starting to kind of look okay. Hunter Green had another good start.
Well, Joey's he's kind of like he's like Rain Man in a sense, man. He's got like these equations and all this shit going through his head that other people can't quite understand. He's just a different guy, and he understands hitting on a level that most guys don't. So it's not unlike him to go on a tear and put together a stretch that's kind of off the charts like he has. And he's not going to struggle for too long. I mean, he's just so good at putting the barrel to the ball. And then let's be honest too. And he's nearing the end of his career. I don't know if this is going to be his last year, but I just hope he keeps putting up great numbers until the end of the season, because we all know they're not making the playoffs.
No, the Reds aren't making the playoffs, but you'd like to see Joey. You just want to see him play well throughout the end of his career. Like, this is not a guy. I don't want to see Joey Votto turn into one of these guys who hits 230 and you got to drag him out there and just so they could sell tickets and all this stuff. Like, to me, Joey Votto is a great hitter. I want to see him continue as a great hitter. And when he's not a great hitter, I think that's when it's time. I just like as much respect as I can have for another guy that I've watched play against my team for a very long time. He's in that tier 1 category, right there with Yachty, even though I hate his guts, right there with Albert, even though I hate his guts. Hate their guts, but they're tier 1 competitors, and you just have a tremendous amount of respect watching them play. And the same thing applies to Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander, we pumped his shit. He went out and had a horrible start against the Mariners. And that was like, he pitched so bad against the Mariners. It was like, maybe we were wrong. Maybe Justin Verlander is going to come back to earth. He's responded in kind, 7 innings, I think 6 hits, like fucking 20 something strikeouts. He's been dominant since that start. And like I said, the Astros are cooking with gas, man. Verlander just.
Yeah. And just past John Smoltz on the strikeout list. He just continues to just to be a timeless arm. And every time I watch a pitch, he's 39 years old or something like that, and I know how difficult it is to go out there later, into your years and still feel capable enough to do anywhere close to the of years, and keeps climbing the charts, because he's one of the best of our lifetime for sure.
Absolutely. And on that note, one of the best right now that I've watched do it in a while, Josh Hader, just blew his first save in almost a year. I'm going to rattle off what he did since he blew his last save. I shouldn't say since his last save. This is the first time he's given up runs in 40 appearances. That goes back to last July. In those 40 games that he pitched, the Brewers were 36-4 in games he made an appearance. He pitched 38 innings with 65 strikeouts, only allowing 27 runners on base, good for a 197 OBP, and probably most impressive, 20% of the pitches he threw. He's thrown 600 pitches. 20% of them have been swings and misses.
He's so hard to square up. He's deceptive. He throws mid to upper 90s consistently. He's just rock solid. He's just one of those guys that every bullpen dreams to have. And he throws with his left hand, which makes it, even more attractive. His setup, I mean, that ball that's coming into right-handed hitters and away from lefties, it just seems like it's unhittable. And he continues to be rock solid. So happy for him. I always love watching guys that pitch at that kind of level for such an extended period of time. And just, I hope for health for him for the foreseeable future so he can continue to put up the numbers he's putting up.
Yeah, it's surprising when you're that good and dominant as a reliever and stuff. I just still always had that question in the back of my head, like, what if Josh Hader just showed up next year and was like, "Hey, I can give you 4 innings to start a game. I can do it." Like, has it become more valuable, or is it like we just like having the most dominant relief pitcher at the back of the bullpen? Which one's more valuable?
I don't know if the Brewers would ever, maybe want to use him as an opener, like Tampa's done and some other teams have kind of messed with, but it's such a dangerous thing to do, to take a guy like that out of his routine, who's so used to coming in, at 9:30, 10 o'clock to get the last 3 outs, and he's so good at preparing himself. I mean, not that he's incapable of adjusting his routine and doing it differently. I mean, I'd be scared to throw him out there for multiple innings, though, on a consistent basis. And like you said, as a reliever, you're in the game so often, right? Like you pitch, you have a day off, you pitch, or he throws back to back to back days to get saves. And to be that good, that frequently, it's even more impressive, because he could potentially be up 4 out of 5 days, and to be so good so many times in a row, it's just I don't even know what to say about it. It's just phenomenal.
And not to trigger anybody on the show who may or may not have, hard feelings about a certain organization, but it should not surprise you. He was drafted by the Baltimore Orioles in 2012 and traded in 2014.
Yeah, it seems like
The
a
same.
theme with the Orioles.
A lot of good pitchers we talk about on this show. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm bringing it up. I'm obligated professionally to just make that note that he too was a Baltimore Oriole who now is considered one of the best at what he does as a pitcher, and he doesn't do it for the Orioles. So if I work for the Orioles, I don't know, man. I'm probably trying to figure this one out this summer. Okay, last one I want to talk about is Joey Bart. Joey Bart is a very interesting player to me. He's a former college catcher. We're going to have Stephen Schoch on in a little bit to talk about some college baseball stuff, getting ready to the Super Regionals. Joey Bart was the second overall pick not too long ago by the Giants. He's a top catching prospect. He's considered can't miss. Buster Posey retired, and a lot of people around San Francisco were okay with it because Joey Bart was going to get some playing time. Joey Bart was their catcher to start the season. They since moved him down to AAA for a fresh reset. This is a tough one for Joey Bart, for Giants fans, because you've been hanging on to this guy. This is a guy when the Giants were making strides last year and trying to find pieces at the trade deadline. They said, absolutely, Joey Bart is untouchable. And so that was like a big thing with the Giants about, you can't touch this kid. He's got his chance to start. He's 25. He's 25. This isn't when Rizzo get called up at 21. This isn't like Trout getting called up in 2011 either. Like when you get called up in June, July, and they want to see what you have. They started opening day with Joey Bart as a catcher. He goes down to AAA. They said it's a reset, though, and I just, like we've talked about this before, there's the good stuff with the heat check. Joey Bart's a guy people are very excited to see this year. It's tough, man. We cheer for these guys. This hurts me to bring this news up. It really does, because you have that much promise, and it's just like you can't, it just sucks.
It sucks. I mean, it happens a lot. It's not infrequent. You see things like this happen all the time. But yeah, just he's not performing the way that they expected him to. And look, he's not an ultra young guy either. He's kind of in that middle territory of, needing him to take steps forward, especially for that organization. So, hopefully he can go down and put some of this behind him and not put too much pressure on himself, because when you're at the big league level and you're trying to stick around, I mean, that's the only thing on your mind is staying in that big league uniform. And now he gets to, decompress a little bit. He's still got to play. He's still got to, take it very seriously. But he's not under the microscope near as closely as he was. So hopefully he can turn things around.
Yeah, again, we're cheering for Joey Bart. We need the more good, especially a catcher. I can't miss top catching prospect from Georgia Tech. Like that's I don't why do I get so excited about that more than an outfielder or a pitcher or something? It's like the idea that like, okay, there's gonna be a new leader in town. Like there's just something about a good quality catcher, like when Buster Posey cracked in the big leagues. Dude, he didn't go anywhere for 14 years. He just stayed there, hit, won a batting title, was a stud. And it hits different when there's like a good org catcher that you can support and all this stuff. So hopefully Joey Bart turns it around. We'll say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hope he does, man. And sometimes you can deal with the lack of average with the defensive skills that he has. So that's why I was a little surprised to see that. But maybe they also want him to enhance his defensive ability also.
Yep. So keep eye out. NL West. It's a moving shit. That's a brutal division. I'm very happy I'm not a fan of the NL West or any teams in there because I would not keep my sanity. All right, so we have Stephen Schoch's going to join us in a second. He's a college baseball guy. Played for Virginia last year. He's an All-American. He's got a crazy, crazy path in college baseball. He started off at Appalachian State, then transferred to University of Maryland, Baltimore County for a couple of years. Got into the Cape League, which is the top college league. Got saw by a guy, said, "Hey, why don't you come out to Virginia?" Goes to Virginia, sits out a year. Then there's a COVID year, and then finally he gets to play. I think he was like 29 years old last year, his senior year for Virginia. He took him to Omaha. He has since he's like a college baseball guy. He's does internet content around college baseball. He's also starting like a real estate career. He's an interesting guy. Not everybody turns pro.
Yeah, and he's got a true passion and a love for college baseball, and he's trying to do good things for kids who might not get the recognition or the recruiting that they might deserve. So he's trying to help guys get into schools and be a part of that transfer portal, and help continue guys' careers. So it's pretty awesome that he's doing that.
Yeah, and as we embrace the game, we grow the game. This isn't like I've said before. It's not just Major League Baseball. We love the game of baseball. College World Series is coming up this weekend. We've got super regional action. We're going to get into a little bit of that around this interview. We're also just talk a little bit about the game, our love for the game, and so let's get to the interview. This is former Virginia Cavalier, Baltimore County and Appalachian great Stephen Schoch. Let's get to the interview. We talked in our last episode kind of about like culture around college baseball. And then coming into this week, I thought with the super regionals coming up, this is we're not dog days for MLB by any means, but I just thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about another side of baseball. And that's obviously the college game. And the way I would describe it to a novice is the weekend coming up is like the Elite Eight, and you've got 16 teams left, and they're going to play each other in 8 different series, and the winners advance to Omaha. We're going to be out there. It's a special weekend, all this stuff. But you and I actually met last year in Omaha, and after your career ended, you've kind of dug your heels into being this college baseball guy. And be quite frank, you've kind of exploded this year in your first year covering the season. So thank you for joining the show.
Yeah, sorry about that. My camera just overheated.
We're talking about the guy from Tennessee flicking off the center fielder, ball gets over his head. Now, if I did something like that playing for Jim Schlossnagle or anybody on our team did it, I don't know if we make our next start, if we play for a while. Like he chews our ass for a long, long time, and he was a scary guy to play for a while. So like if you're a coach, like where do you draw the line? Do you let the players kind of do their own thing and handle that afterwards? Is that something they understand going into the game? Okay, like I don't care if you do this, or this, but maybe this is too far, and do you really want to add fuel to the fire? And look, Tennessee's number one. Doesn't matter how much shit they talk, they're probably still going to win. But you know what I'm saying? There's like I'm on both sides of the fence there. Like I don't love like my 10-year-old son to see it, but I also don't want to teach him to be a pussy and get like, and be scared of something like that, because we're men, like we do stupid shit, and especially in college, like when every game could be your last. So, you know what I mean? Like, and how do you feel about that? How would your coach have handled that when you were in Virginia?
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt Coach O'Connor would have put me back in my place right away. But where I stand on it is I feel like as long as you're balling out, who really cares? Like, if you're putting up numbers and doing great and you aren't starting to brawl or, getting in fist fights every game, I'm all for it. Like, obviously, you don't want to show up the other team is what everyone will say. But also, as long as you're running up the scoreboard, no one's really going to care if you show up the team because end of the day, that's just another win in the win
And
column.
this is
And
sports. Like you can,
yeah,
if you want to cry about it, that's fine. But sports are unforgiving, and sometimes people talk a bunch of shit, and you got to handle it. And if you get your ass kicked at the same
Yeah,
time, it's a difficult situation.
yeah, I think there's a big difference though between you don't want to have a reputation, especially if some of these guys are trying to go into pro ball and stuff and build a name for themselves. I think there's a clear line where you look at some of these guys. We talked Tim Elko is an old Miss guy that came up pre-show
mhm.
with the ACL injury, and he's like a big name. Like, I don't, is he a draft prospect, Steven? Quickly, is he yes or no like a big name or anything?
I think he will
Okay,
be.
so take him. There's probably somebody on that old Miss team then we'll profile as like the 5th-year senior. You know, he's not going to get a look. If he does, it's a late sign and all the stuff. Like that guy can talk all the shit he wants because at the end of the day, like
Yeah,
he does represent that program. But I think there are some other players where it's like, you know, you definitely don't want a reputation. I would imagine. I didn't get fucking drafted. Steven certainly didn't either. But you don't want that
I
reputation,
didn't.
right, Jake? Or is that something you don't
No,
care
yeah,
about?
no, you definitely do. And look, if character is a big thing that teams are looking at, especially if they're thinking about spending 3-4+ million on you as a first rounder, or even half a million in the second or third round. And if they potentially see you as being a piece in the organization for a long time to come, like character is a big part of that. And not to say that like you can't do stupid shit like flipping the dude off and still have high character. It's just maybe you need to understand at the next level like certain things are not going to fly. Like if you do that in the big leagues, like you are going to probably get stood up in the locker room by one of your teammates, or you're going to get drilled for the next 6 at bats in that series. You know what I'm saying? So it it won't happen in the minor leagues. It might happen in the minor leagues, but if that dude gets to the big leagues, his teammates will police that and won't let it happen. And again, like I'm not trying to be like the no fun police, but at the next level, it can't really happen that way. Or I mean, you might get in a fist fight with the dude on the field, which if he's fine with that, cool. But at some point, like somebody's going to hit him in the mouth and kind of put him in his place, and that will probably stop. I'm not saying don't have flair and flash and fly around the field and have a good time, but flipping the bird might not be the best move.
Yeah, I would say flipping the bird's a little bit over the line, but I'm still for it. Like I'm not gonna go back on that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and I
you
think
shouldn't.
just based on the whole season he had, I think he's had such a great season, and the culture at Tennessee, like the way Tony Vitello has it set up is, it's everybody else versus Tennessee. It's us versus the world essentially, and I think that contributes to things like this happening, which you know, it seems like a pretty fun culture to be a part of. I see a lot of people on their team are enjoying it,
Hell
so
yeah,
maybe it works.
Is he the
yeah.
guy? Did
No,
he
they're
take over for
badass.
Serrano? Did he take over for Serrano from Tennessee? Because I know Serrano was a big name that came over from Cal State Fullerton, and he had that kind of culture coming into Tennessee. And they thought that there's a huge hire for Tennessee to kind of get the baseball program back, and it just kind of stalled. And he was a legend out west with Fullerton, and then I think that I know that the Tennessee program, they went back to Omaha last year. Last year, and now they're clearly the number one seed, right? Like they're a runaway number one seed
Yeah,
in this
Yeah,
yeah.
tournament. Okay.
Well,
it's by leaps and bounds.
and that what you get when you're number one national seed is you get kind of a cookie like regional, and then they're matched up with Notre Dame. I mean, they're going to beat the shit out of Notre Dame. But like I
Arkansas said
said,
the same thing about NC State last year.
did they?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Notre Dame's pitching staff is pretty deep.
Well, and it's all about pitching because look, one of my best friends, Stephen Trout, head guy at Texas State, fucking heartbreaking defeat against Stanford.
Oh
Did you
my,
watch that shit?
yeah,
I mean, they hit a 2-run homer, or they took the lead in the in the top of the ninth, and then gave up back-to-back
Mhm.
homers to start off the inning, then a double, intentional walk, and a base hit. I mean, they had their closer throw 7 innings, which was absolutely unbelievable to watch. Then they brought in one of their starters, I guess, a big, tall dude, I forget his name, and then brought in Levi Wells to close it. And it's just like, you know, and Carl and I talked about this. There's a lot of good pitching in college baseball, but Stephen, were you surprised with how many high scoring games there were in these regionals? I mean, it was like 30-19 and
Yeah,
17-16. Like it was a crazy regional this year.
it was very offensive, and some people are saying, "Oh, the balls are juiced," and I honestly think they might be because we're seeing more home runs than ever. But also at the same time, everybody's older. Like with COVID happening, fifth year guys sticking around, like the amount of 23 and 24-year olds is much higher than it was last year. And I just think that experience plus, potentially a change in the balls might be doing something. might be like I think the Oklahoma State's regional by day 2 there had been 39 home runs
Yeah,
or maybe
yeah,
day
and
3.
there was
But
a
that's
yeah,
a lot of
it was
home runs.
100 runs scored like up until
Yeah.
like the last
It was
day or something like that. Just incredible. And it's a tug of war in baseball, and I'm sure in college baseball too. You want a lot of offense, but you want shorter games. And you mentioned the juice balls. I'm all for it. I don't give a shit as long as they just tell you, like, give you a heads up. Like, what I don't like
yeah.
is like Major League Baseball would just alter the ball without saying anything, and then they change it again, and then the ball's flying further, and then we get a dead ball. Just figure out what you want. You know what I mean? Just juice balls are cool. I think they killed the bats. They like nerfed the bats in college baseball, right? Like, did you notice changes while you were there? And like, what were your guys saying to you, like about the bats, or were they always kind of uniform during your time there?
So it was always BB core when I was there, but in high school, like I remember the change. Like I went from dropping to absolute tanks to grounding out to the shortstop, which is solely because of the BB core over Beezer bats. It's not because people started throwing curveballs and I'm just not that good at hitting. So just that change was very interesting, but I certainly wouldn't want to pitch in the era of baseball as they have right now.
Yeah, I remember when they changed over the BB core bats. That was right after I graduated, and that was the peak in college baseball. I think the average runs per game was double digits. Like the average college game was like the average pitching staff was giving up like 6 runs per game or something. It was and that's not ERA either. I think the average ERA over that time was like 5 point something. But then you mix in college defense. So tell me more. Okay, so let's talk this weekend for super regionals and stuff. We talked a little bit Tennessee, Notre Dame. Notre Dame obviously deep pitching. I'm looking at their numbers now. They have a couple horses. Let's just say like off the top though, away from Tennessee, if there's one regional, Steven, if you were like locked in a room, you had one TV, what's one super regional you're very interested in?
Texas and ECU, because they're playing at ECU, and I think that environment's just crazy. Like I heard stories about the stuff that was getting yelled at players this weekend, and I can't imagine in supers. Obviously, supers are more important because they throw super in front of regional. So the the nerves are going to be higher, emotions are going to be running thinner, and everything matters a little bit more. And so I think, you know, it's going to be a good game or a good series because Texas has a great lineup. They have Ivan Melendez, the Hispanic Titanic, which literally everyone knows since he got out of JUCO. And ECU's got a ton of players that I personally really love to watch. Like Bryson Worrell is this guy who he's one of those older guys who just balls out. Like this weekend, he had 3 diving catches in one game, and he was the guy who hit a home run left-handed and right-handed as well. So anytime things like that are happening, I'm excited. I'm hoping to see him maybe try to hit one middle-handed because it's super regional. He's got to do a little bit more. Maybe something like that could happen. I don't know. I don't know how you do it, but if someone does know how, it's
Now, I
probably him.
blew a game in Greenville in 2010, a non-con game. Early in the season, we went out, we played him, and it was one of those like 4 teams go out to one location, y'all kind of play around robin or whatever. And I came out of that pen that night, and I remember I was warming up next to our closer. I thought the closer was going to go in because it was like the 7th or 8th inning, and it was just tight. Like that was the moment. And our coach wasn't really dialed into, role clarity as much as it was like, this is a big moment. We should get in this. So I come in anyways. I fucking blow it. Oppo double, walk a guy. I spun a double play ball when I came in. We didn't fucking turn. I don't think we got one out from it. But I can tell you, yes, that environment, Greenville, as a guy who's blown a game there when it didn't matter and the place was rocking and the students are loaded. And that's another cool aspect about college baseball. A lot of these places, the students this is about as rowdy as you can get. Cause like college basketball, dude, they'll kick you out if you're saying fucked up stuff. You can't, there's a limit to like how weird and messed up. In football, you're so far away. Like there's like, yeah, sure, Penn State, you can pack 10,000 kids in there and they can jump up and down and impact the game. College baseball, you could put 24 frat boys in like right field that can absolutely change the dynamic of a game and like an SEC. So speaking of SEC, I'm curious, like, do you have any read on Auburn? Auburn's going out to Oregon State. Oregon State's a historic college baseball program that people might not be aware of. Great baseball since I believe it was Mike Casey or Pat Casey, and he retired. Coach Casey retired. They're still doing well out there in Corvallis. That's a 3 versus a 14. Oregon State's a 3. Auburn's got to make that big trip.
Yeah, so one of my favorite players on Auburn is this guy, Sonny DiChiara. I don't know if you know what he looks like or if you've ever heard.
How do you spell? I'm looking him up now.
But
Sonny who?
Let's check him out.
Just type in Sonny D Auburn
Yes.
and you'll see him. Look at him and tell me you don't already love him. Like,
oh, the big
he
fella.
is this savage. Yeah, everybody's like, oh, it's funny because he's a big guy.
Look at this guy.
Oh, and also he's like leading the SEC in hitting.
I didn't think these guys still existed in college baseball. Well, at least at this level.
I think every team needs.
This is awesome.
Like,
and does he rake?
He is incredible. He absolutely rakes. He's one of the best hitters in not just the SEC, but college baseball. Like, for the first half of the season, he led the nation in batting average. And, like, when he gets a hold of one, it is one of the most incredible things
Sonny
I've
D.
ever seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to look like that, you got to rake. You got to.
Yeah, because the ball flies, and then he just looks outstandingly happy. Like, no one could be happier that he hit a home run.
Oh, wow. I like this guy. Okay, let's see. He's hitting 300 on the year, or he's hitting 397 with 20 jacks. That 20 jacks is just a monster number, man.
397?
Yeah, he might rake. He might.
Yeah, 397 with 20. That's really fucking good.
What about Oregon State? What do we got out there, Steven?
Oregon State has this one pitcher, Cooper Jerpy. I don't know the nationality of the name or where it came from. The origin, I guess, is the correct word. But the dude absolutely shoves. I think he's going to be a first rounder this year. And he's fun to watch pitch. So I'd recommend watching.
Lefty, 6'3". We like the name Cooper on this podcast a lot.
I want to say he's sweet.
Dude, hey, when is Steven, why haven't we even mentioned this? When's the draft?
The draft is
during soon, right?
Right after Omaha, I believe.
Yeah, because typically wasn't it like the first or second week of June?
It usually is. Like I remember my junior year when I really thought I was gonna get popped. Spoiler alert,
man. So yeah. So let me ask you about that. So what was your? I mean, you closed. You were a closer, so you had to have decent stuff. Like, did you think you were going to have an opportunity? Did you consider maybe trying to play independent ball or doing something else to continue, or were you like, fuck it, I'm done?
Yeah, so my junior year, I really was like, that's when I was all in on the draft. Like, I had a summer with a 0 ERA through like 30 innings, and I thought I was pretty good. And then when no teams even offered me $1,000, I was like, okay, well, that was fun to think about for a little bit, but we aren't going to do that anymore. And then once college baseball ended, like I went into baseball with 3 main goals, which is a little weird. My first goal was to get an education my brain couldn't get me, which a guy like me should not have been allowed in the confines of the University of Virginia campus. Build a following to where I can talk about baseball for a living, which, we kind of did that. I mean, I sell real estate too, so a little bit of both. And 3 was just have a shit ton of fun while I do it. And I think I got all three of those goals. So I was like, okay, well, because I thought, I'd have to go to the minors and do some weird shit to get the following, but I got very fortunate. And I was like, okay, well, we did all three things, so let's just roll with it. We're good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And the reality of the situation is that most guys that play college baseball never get to play at the next level. And I talk to teams a lot, and I'll probably talk to the A&M guys before they're a super. And I just tell them, look, this could be your last opportunity to put this uniform on. And unfortunately, someone takes it away from you. That might be after high school, after college, a little bit of time in the minor leagues, or a long major league career. You just never know. So while you're doing it, fucking enjoy the shit as much as you possibly can. And it seems like that's exactly what you did. Because if you don't, man, you're going to regret it. And if you're down and bummed about not being able to play at the next level, it's going to detract from your ability to just go out there and have fun and enjoy the guys you're playing with. I mean, with me, some of my best friends are guys I played at TCU with. I'll be friends with for my entire life, and I feel like that's a common theme with guys that play college ball. I mean, Carl's the same way. I mean, and I assume that very similar in your situation.
Yeah, and one thing that helped me, like I always believed, like, just I'm a firm believer there's no point in doing anything in life if you aren't going to have fun. So you might as well have fun with everything you do. But honestly, the first meeting we had with Coach Oak as a team, Coach Oak at UVA was like, look, you guys aren't allowed to be in frats because what you got to realize is this is your frat. Like, these are the people you're going to be friends with. I didn't even have to pay dues or rush. So financially, great decision. But just being with the teammates and having fun was really what it all meant for me. And even when we made our run in Omaha, it wasn't, for me, I was never thinking, oh, this is all to win a national championship. For me, I might have been selfish thinking this way, but it was, if we win today, I get to keep playing with my friends and I get to play baseball for one more day. So, what stakes could ever be higher?
Yeah, that's right, man. And playing a sport, if you're lucky enough to play it to your age or um, into your late teens and your 20s, it teaches you a lot about just building relationships and knowing how to deal with people. And like in what you're doing now with real estate, I'm sure a lot of what you went through as an athlete and the places you played, are going to make you much better at what you're going to do after baseball. And you know, kids that don't play baseball or don't play sports, it's like, man, you got to learn some tough lessons in another way, which can be done. But how doing physical things, difficult things physically, when you have to, get up to just do something mundane, it makes that so much easier. Like when you put your body through a lot of physical stress, then it's like, man, if I can do that, I can handle selling this house, or I can handle whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the things, like, that's one of the reasons I want to give back to baseball so much is because, like, it really gave me essentially everything in life. Like, it guided me to meet my fiance. It gave me all of my friends. Like, I was texting friends I played summer ball with in 2017 today. And I was like, you guys ever think about how, like, none of us would have any clue who the hell each other were if it weren't for baseball? And like that's why I'm so grateful and have such gratitude for the game, and why I try to put energy back into the game and make it better for other people.
I was gonna ask about. Well, we have some connections here. Jake brought up Texas A&M. You're gonna go talk to the boys because you're college coaches in the locker room, and you're playing my old college coach, pal. My old college coach is with Louisville. He's their associate head coach. So we got to figure out some sort of wager here between the two former coaches. And then on the other end, Steven and I shared pitching coaches. We're like Eskimo brothers in some sense. My college pitching coach is Steven's coach. And
You kissed him too? Wait, what? Did you kiss?
yeah, Drew.
Yeah, no, you said Eskimo Bros. I didn't realize you also.
You kissed him too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, me and Drew. Yeah. No. Yeah. We're tight. We're real tight. Drew down. That's a guy, man.
Dude,
Well, hey, listen,
He
Carl.
is.
I've got a Coastal Carolina tattoo on my ass, and it was a bet with Tommy LaStella. He went to Coastal Carolina. Our teams played each other, and we threw a bet on it. So I'm all
No.
for if you wanna do one like that. You wanna do that?
We're gonna save that for when the Horned Frogs and the Illini square off, my man.
I love tattoos, so I'm
I know you
always
do.
down for a
I'm
bet.
saving one for our 100th episode too. I'm saving the first one for that. What about we'll think about it for fuck, man. Now I'm on the spot. After the I'll have
No,
something when we
we'll
come
think
on the
about it.
interview.
We'll
We have
think
time.
about it.
We have a show to do.
This is a weird thing for me because TCU and A&M got put in the same regional, which was rough. When they played, I had to go for the Frogs, but then now that A&M got out of that Super, I'm hoping they can get past Louisville. I'm sorry to say that, but because we're going to be in Omaha together, my son's playing in a tournament, and I mean we got to get on the field for BP, and if they're not there, I don't know who the hell is going to let us on the field. You know what
Yeah,
I
my
mean?
college coach is not going to let us on. If we're looking for access, then we definitely got to be cheering for Texas A&M. My college coach is going to be like, "Yeah, we got time. Maybe I'll see you at the hotel." And like, I won't see him when we're down there. He's going to be all business. The last person he's going to want to see is me. When I played for him, I would catch him up. Right, that was a kind of a big role for the bullpen. Was while the coaches are out there and they're hitting fungos, you'd go out there and you'd catch him up and you just talk to the coach about like, hey, what's going on? What do you think of Iowa today and all this stuff. And then when he would go break down or go throw to hitters or whatever, he'd hand you the fungo and then you'd go out and you'd fungo other outfielders and stuff. And so that was like a role that like the fifth year senior pitcher kind of carried. And so I got that role my senior year. And he told me at the end of my senior year, he goes, I'll tell you, I know you wanted to catch me up and all this stuff. You talk so fucking much, man. You've talked more this season to me than every other senior that has caught me up. Like as long as I've been here, it has been all you do is fucking talk, man. I hope you find a career where you can just fucking talk, which is kind of
Well, you
funny because
found
now
it.
here we
You
are.
found it.
Yeah.
You're
So
wound up like that. You got a lot of shit up here, man. You got to
it's
get it
just
out.
fucking, I know it
You
is.
got to get it out. It worked a little bit.
We're doing okay.
Steven, where? So in Omaha, I've never been to Omaha. Where would you guys go? Did you have a lot of time, away from the game to kind of explore a little bit, go to some dinners, or like what was it like off the field?
We didn't really have a ton of time. Literally, any steakhouse you go to is going to be phenomenal. You can, believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy. You can get a good steak at a
Well, I
steakhouse.
would
I
hope.
know, I'm
Well, Nebraska, nonetheless.
profound, but just any steakhouse in general, I highly recommend just going and getting one because I don't know what they do differently there, but it's way better. And I know, like, one of my favorite things was going to the little baseball village they have there during the tournament, which it obviously it's like a Christmas tree stand. It's very seasonal. You got to get there at the right time. But it's a lot of fun just walking around and seeing people and meeting people, but also like seeing what cool stuff people have for sale. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. So we're renting a Sprinter van. I'm taking my whole family up there. It's my son's last baseball tournament, and I told him we're gonna drive. And my wife's like, why don't we just fly? I'm like, look, this is like little league baseball. You get into a van with some of your buddies, and you drive 13 or 14 hours. You hook up the
It's the
Xbox.
best.
You stop at 3 or 4 fast food spots. You got to stop at Cracker Barrel. I feel like that's a must. On a road trip with kids, got to stop at Cracker Barrel. And we're gonna just roll. She's not very happy with me, but I found a Sprinter van in San Antonio that's like 150 a night. It might be shitty, but we're gonna, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun as hell.
I'm literally jealous. I miss those days.
Well, so you're getting married when?
When are we getting married? Still not
All
sure on
right.
the date, but eventually.
Yeah. Well, good. And I mean, don't rush into kids, but man, you'll be a hell of a coach one day.
I can't wait to have little dipshits with mullets just running around. They might be flipping kids off. I'll be honest. They might be that
Hey, every team needs one of them, right?
guy. A wise man once said that.
Fact.
Predictions for any upsets this weekend going in Omaha. Anything we got to keep our eyes peeled for? We like a lot.
Any upsets? I got a strong feeling about Southern Miss. I don't know if that's technically an upset or not because they're hosting, but I'm confident in them. Uh, Jake, earmuffs please, but I think Louisville's gonna going to play pretty good baseball this weekend. They got Levi Usher, who he doesn't let balls hit the ground. Like, he's a center fielder. I guess I should have prefaced it with that. But he's literally the fastest dude in college baseball right now because Enrique Bradfield, his season has ended for Vandy. And they also have this kid, Dalton Rushing, who literally is a clone of Bowser from Super Mario Baseball, but from the left side. So I'm feeling confident in them. I think this is another team where they're hosting, and I think they're going to win as ECU, but it's against Texas, so I don't know how upsets work.
Yeah, I got some numbers
guys,
actually. So while you're bringing this up, I'm glad you bring this up. So East Carolina on the Barstool Sportsbook is plus 125. Texas is minus 155. That would be like the Cubs are at home starting Kyle Hendricks against Corbin Burns.
Okay.
So slight underdog with East Carolina, but you're at home, and there's some compelling reasons.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but I also got a weird feeling about UConn. I think UConn could pull it off against Stanford. I mean, I know they're traveling across the whole entire nation, but they're just a team that all season they've scraped together runs and they've pitched big when they need to pitch big. And they've been doing it all without their best player, who is a two-way guy who he is a first baseman. His name's Reggie Crawford. He just hits piss missiles, but he also throws 97 to 101 when he's healthy. He recently got Tommy John from the left side, too. So it's like pretty cool. I watched him at Team USA. It was literally the most incredible thing I'd seen.
This Ole Miss, Southern Miss, you brought it up. That should be an absolute crazy fight. Obviously, Ole Miss has bragging rights through a large part of that state. I know there's probably a lot of kids that are going to be suiting up for Southern Miss that grew up thinking they'd be wearing Ole Miss or wanting to be playing in the SEC. And even though Southern Miss is very good, they find themselves in a super regional. You better believe these kids are coming into this super regional with a chip on their shoulder, feeling like they're underdogs. Even as the 11 seed, even as they're 47-17, and Ole Miss is a team that turned it on towards the end of the season, got hot, I think, in the SEC tournament. And when they made it, they upset some people they didn't think they were deserving. They absolutely roll through the regional. The offense is fucking lighting it up. So this Southern Miss, Ole Miss one, that could be one of those where like tempers flare and stuff really pops off.
Yeah, and I think another important thing for Southern Miss is their worst weekend starting pitcher had 2.96 ERA, and that's the worst. And he had 128 Ks in 85 innings. So if that's your Sunday guy, I'm pretty confident you might be a good team.
Wow.
Yeah. When you have arms like that, it's all about starting pitching, especially in these little 3-game series. What's so cool to me about these super regionals, and even in the regional, it's like guys know what's on the line, and you're getting the most energy they can possibly produce. Chances are you're getting their best performance because, I mean, you win or go home. Maybe you don't get to play any more baseball. And it's a sad fucking time too. Like to watch those kids play the last game, man. Like my boy Trouty in the dugout at Stanford with talking to his boys, like this. You understand why they're all in tears. It's like, fuck, we were right there. We just let it slip away. So I can't wait to go down. I'm going to go down to College Station Friday night and watch that one for sure. Sloshnik was nice enough to buy me tickets. They only get 7, and those were all spoken for. So, yeah, he gets 7 tickets, and he's like, you know what? He sent them to me like electronically, and I'm like, man, I got to pay you back. Like, fuck, I didn't want you to buy my tickets, but thank you.
Hey, you bring up tough endings. Steve, I'd be remiss. I mean, we don't have to go through it, but like Jake, I don't know how familiar you are with this, but I'll set the stage. It's the losers bracket. Virginia's climbing out of it. They got a good game against Texas. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
And was it the 9th inning?
No, it was way earlier. You're talking when I blew it, right?
I'm trying to be nice about it, but I think it's a compelling story that your actual last game, like that's tough. And I'm curious, like how your relationships with your buddies, like they're probably great teammates, I would guess, right? They're Virginia guys. Of course they're great teammates, right?
They were all right there for me because, a large part of it was I was a big go out and play not to sound like a home goods poster, but play every game like it's your last. And, everybody knew when I was out there, it was pretty obvious I was giving it everything I got. So, Jake, I gave up a 3-run bomb in Omaha against Mississippi State, and they ultimately won the game. And it was our first elimination, or not our first elimination, our first loss. And then we lost the next day and went home. But it was an interesting time. Like, all my coaches and teammates knew, like, my arm was pretty dead going into that, and I was going to give it everything I had. And I think they were just, still happy with how far we had come given the circumstances. Because, like, there was a time last year when we were like 4-12 and probably not making our conference tournament. So we kind of had a big turning point and turned it all around. So it was like, when it was finally over, it was super sad, but also it was kind of a relief in the sense that, like, we could finally look back at how far we've come, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in the moment, it can be hard to be excited or happy for what you accomplished. But then as time passes, you start to understand, and you're able to kind of take it all in a little bit more once the emotions like subside and realize how special what you guys did truly was. And a lot of teams every year kind of go through that same thing. It's like they experience a crushing defeat at some point in the season, and then as time passes, it's like, man, what we did was pretty fucking cool. Even though the way it ended sucked, and at the end of the day, only one team wins the national championship. So, you have to find a way to, enjoy those memories, even though you didn't end up, holding the trophy at the end of the year. I mean, if you win a conference or you win regular season or the tournament or get to a regional, get past a regional, those are all amazing things that most teams that play college baseball never get to experience.
Yeah, and for me, like, after about a week, after everything happened and we were done, obviously I cried right after it ended. I cry after every season. That's just what I do because I'm a bit of a baby. But I just remembered thinking, like, damn, I just ended my career in Omaha at the College World Series, and I was a kid my senior year of high school who had one offer and was told I'd never be a Division I player. And it's like, well, that guy was an asshole. Look at this.
Yeah, and you got a lot farther than I did, man. We lost in both of my regionals. And in 2006, we got beat by Oklahoma, and then 2007, we got beat by Rice. So, congrats, man. You did a hell of a lot better than I did.
Thanks. I still paid to see you more than you paid to see me play, so you got that. So don't hang your head too low.
I won't.
Right?
I won't. You're right, though. I appreciate you saying that.
Hey,
it's all about perspective.
So you're gonna be in Omaha. We'll be in Omaha together. We're gonna catch a game and all that stuff. And
Steve,
dude,
you gonna be out
congrats
there?
on.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Well, we'll do this again
with Cespedes Barbecue for D1 baseball.
Yeah, we got to meet. I got to meet those guys. Those guys have been doing a good job on Twitter forever. Like those are funny guys. Like
they're a riot.
And congrats on what you're doing, man. And I know the feeling of like doing a job so that you can do something you love on the side and just keep doing the college baseball stuff because if you care about it, it's obviously going to go somewhere. You're making a difference. You're making a name for yourself. I've been following you for a year, and you have like you've like reasonably exploded in the last year with the stuff you're doing. And so hopefully this brings some attention to the efforts. And so what are the handles and Instagrams or Twitters? You're very active on Twitter. Where can people follow the content? And just as a slice, you'll post like D3 stuff. It's not just like D1 big program SEC stuff. It'll be crazy stuff like, 25-24 game in Division II, or like, you won't believe this pitcher threw right-handed yesterday and left-handed today. Like, you really mix in some wild college baseball stories that really represent what's kind of going on at that level.
I think the best way to describe the Twitter is the weekend where in NAIA, for some reason, a kid ate 24 apples to set a record. And then I tweeted about it. And the next day I got a DM that said, hey, new record just dropped. This kid ate 25. And the picture was this kid with all these apple cores looking like he was going to die. But if you're wondering what my Twitter is about, that's typically at the center of it. That's what it's all about. But my Twitter is BigDonkey47. My Instagram is Steven_Schoch. If you can figure out how to spell that, hat tip to you. But I won't waste your time spelling it. You guys are smart. I believe in you.
Hey man, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being on the show, and great meeting you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a blast, and thanks for talking about the college game. I think it's something that often gets overlooked, so I appreciate y'all shining the light on it.
Yeah, man, you bet. And it's a special time for, it was for me. I know it was for you, Carl, as well. And this is the best time for college baseball during the year. So we look forward to seeing you out in Omaha.
I look forward to meeting you out there, and Carl, I can't wait to see you again.
Big hugs indeed, my man. Big hugs and big beers. All right, that's Steven. We'll be together in Omaha. It's gonna be a great trip. The Sprinter van. I hope you got room for some golf clubs, maybe, or we're just gonna have a nice time out there.
I'm gonna
enjoy
bring 'em.
some of the good local eats.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring them. You never know when we can, break out for at least 9 holes. So you got to bring yours with you too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I fly Southwest. You get to carry that on. No free ads for Southwest, but a huge Midway airport guy. So opportunity for to flex some loyalty going out to Omaha. So pretty loaded week, obviously. A lot of moving parts here. Water park episode. Hopefully you guys are subscribing to the YouTube channel. We are going to be in Omaha, obviously, like we've talked about with Steven. That's a big thing coming up for us. And honestly, man, just kind of getting caught up with these storylines. It's team meeting season. It's moving and shaking season around Major League Baseball. Jake, I am curious as we kind of wrap the show. How was your first year being a full-time dad and stuff? Are you enjoying retirement as much as you thought?
Man, more than I thought. And I've always been a full-time dad. Just, I have some other responsibilities too. So don't take that away from me. Okay. And I was talking to a guy earlier, and saying, hey, do you miss playing, and how's the transition? I said, look, it was just my time. I was ready for this. The things I'm doing now, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Being able to spend as much time as I can with my kids. It's summer. I'm coaching their sports. I'm really enjoying doing this podcast. And there's a lot of things that I look forward to doing in the future. So no, it's been amazing, and I can't wait to see what happens. Over the next couple of years. My kids are already grown up, which kind of sucks. And that's another reason I work out as much as I do, because I'm trying to kick Cooper's ass in everything for as long as possible. Because at some point that ship's going to sail.
Playing golf with Daniel Hudson yesterday, told me a story about how the strength and conditioning coach for the White Sox, when he was a rookie with the White Sox, had a 9-year-old son hanging around the clubhouse, and they'd play catch, and the son was always hanging around 9, younger than Cooper. Okay. He's a starting fucking center fielder for the Diamondbacks now, and Huddy's got to play against him. And he's like, you have no idea how weird that is, dude.
Yeah.
He's like, this was a 9-year-old boy when I was in the big leagues. And now he's a center fielder for the Diamondbacks and stuff. Time's going to move pretty quick, man.
It is. It is. I was very fortunate that Cooper was able to kind of grow up in a clubhouse and see kind of the culture and the lifestyle that we kind of took on as players. And I feel like it's made him mature much more quickly. So, it definitely has its advantages, especially if those kids end up playing baseball. So that's a very cool story. And I've seen it a lot. There's been a lot of kids that have grown up in clubhouses that have ended up playing in the big leagues.
No pressure, Coop.
0. Yeah. Well, he better fucking play. Come on now.
Okay, good show. Good week, boys. Everybody have a good weekend. Colin, weekend playing, slapping cheeks. What do you got, bud?
Clapping cheeks. I'm going to the Belmont Stakes on Saturday with my pops and brother. So we'll go horse racing in. Get to see the Kentucky Derby and Preakness winner, so that'll be nice. Probably hit up the beach again.
I'm heading down to A&M.
I'm
heading down to A&M College Station to watch Game 1 of the Super Regional Friday. I don't believe that Cooper's playing in a baseball tournament this weekend. We're going to give him the weekend off. So we're just going to enjoy some college baseball.
Excellent. And good luck to my Brother Ice Crusaders. My high school baseball team has advanced to the state quarterfinals. or no, I think the state semifinals. They're in the Final Four in the biggest division in Illinois. These are Chicago kids. It's a good team. Sean McBride's a coach, leading these boys. It's been fun to watch it as alum. I'm very into the high school stuff. They have a devastating matchup against Edwardsville, which is a powerhouse in southern Illinois out of the St. Louis area. So this is a good old-fashioned Chicago St. Louis kid showdown. Good luck to the Brother Ice Crusaders and all our other high school listeners out there that have games this weekend as they compete for state championships. And congratulations on seasons that ended too early. That's my closing.
That's right. Yeah, good luck to your boys.
Yeah.
I hope they win it, man. Hope they win
Thank
it.
you. They're all fucking subscribed to the show.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yep.
Send them my love. Hell yeah, I hope they win it.
All right, boys. Until next time, everybody have a safe weekend and enjoy some baseball.
Peace.